Hi everyone. So I want to talk about getting into IT, getting into cybersecurity, um, and just talking about, with me having over 25 years of experience, um, what I would do if I was getting into it right now. And I have a lot of people that do ask me, um, what do they need to do in order to get into it? And especially when it comes to cybersecurity. And so I wanted to talk about, getting into this, and it gets people overcomplicate it very quickly when we talk about this, especially when you go out on the internet and whatnot. Everyone always has the answer, but I'm going to give you something in my honest perspective, not from theory, just from actually 25 years of actually doing this type of work. And if I had to start over today, this is exactly what I'm going to be talking about. And the reality of it is there's a lot of people out there, boot camps, certifications, expensive courses, a bunch of tools to get you started. And the truth is that you don't need that, um, because cybersecurity, and it's starting to turn into IT, isn't just one skill. It's stacked skills that build off of one another over time. You have hardware, you have software, operating systems, networking, scripting, and security, and they layer over time. And the thing is that as we move forward, it's very broad. And so where do you start, right? And again, there's all these fast tracks, and there's no fast track. If you skip the foundation, uh, it becomes memorization, not just understanding. And that will come back to haunt you later if you decide that you want to do a career in IT, and especially like is something like cybersecurity, because the way it's stacked out. So start my advice, it would be start simple. And that would be like grab an old laptop, grab an old desktop, put like Linux, like Ubuntu. Again, you're gonna hear people say, "Oh, do Mint, do this with." Just get Ubuntu and start there, because the most important thing where you need to start is start learning like the command line basics, right? How files work, how processes run, how users interact with the systems, and that foundation, that fundamental, spreads across any operating system. Windows, Apple, Linux, doesn't matter. And it's not fancy. It's just the fundamentals, and that's where you have to start. Um, and again, I come back to this because if you skip the fundamentals, uh, you're going to create gaps in your knowledge. And especially, again, like I say, it really shines through with cybersecurity, um, when you have those gaps in that knowledge. But it's beginning now to where you have in other sectors of the IT industry where those gaps really start to show if you don't have that foundational knowledge. And things are just getting more um, bigger and more complicated. And so another thing where you can go into, and again, I love this, is Arduinos. Because you're moving into something that is getting down to the hardware layer, the physical layer, and you're learning about inputs, outputs, and logic and flow. And um, you can't just read about it. You actually have to actually do it and build it and see how it works. And it matters more than what you realize. So like again, like when it comes down to like networking, with say like Arduino, and I'm using an Arduino to actually capture like say environmental data, and I need to move it off of that Arduino to something else. Um, with computer systems, I basically say, oh, I'm going to use this protocol, and I'm going to do IP addressing, and I'm going to send it over this protocol, and it's done. I'm glazing over that pretty broadly, but my whole point is that at an Arduino level, you actually have to code it. Um, like you can have the protocols there, but like you have to actually take and filter through and send that data bit by bit. And depending, like I might be collecting information, like for it, like over here in this, like I have this is a simple DHT sensor, digital humidity temperature sensor. So I'm gathering that data. Okay, I'm saving it to an SD card, and now I want to move that off to something else. Well, now I have to read that data, and So like, again, like what type of, put in a common data format. Maybe I'm going to send it over a LoRa network, which would be like a radio. Well, it's not just copy and paste. Like you have to like literally go through and break that down and send that in bits. And then there's a communication protocol that goes back and forth. But anyhow, I don't want to get too far into that, but understanding that very fundamental physical layer is going to help you in the long run. And Arduinos are very, very cheap. And there's great starter kits. And like one would be like a Lago starter kit. And you can use, they have the Uno revision 4, which are great, but you can even use a revision 3. Like you can't go wrong getting into the nitty gritty of that hardware fundamentals. And then after that, again, nothing fancy, you can get into Raspberry Pis. And here you're starting to step into where the operating, it's like small scale computing where you actually can layer an operating system on top of this. And you can start doing networking and services, and you're starting to see how everything connects together. Again, you don't need all this expensive equipment to understand these fundamentals. And I guess that's what's also exciting about right now where we're here in this day and age, is that if you would rewind back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, this stuff was, you couldn't afford it. It was very expensive. And now for a couple $100, and like again, the Arduinos are like $20 a piece, and you can get a Raspberry Pi kit for I think pretty much like a little bit over $100, which gives you everything. You can get into all these things. And but anyhow, back to the Raspberry Pi. It's a good starting point is what I'm getting at. And again, like you can use the Raspberry Pi 4. There's starter kits out there and they're great. My brain diverged there. But anyhow, trying with this, the flow here is next thing I would like to probably talk about is like certification paths, right? There are oodles and oodles of them, and they're not bad, they're good, and there's a place for them. I have a lot over the years. I have like over like 90 certifications, and that's fine and dandy, but over that course of time, what I've seen is I've seen people that like would just memorize for the test, right? Again, don't do that. And again, as we're here now with everything, there's so much to learn. You think we can take a fast track. You can't take a fast track. You have to have that fundamental knowledge. And if you just memorize for the test, the only thing you're doing is cheating yourself. And I would say so the fundamental knowledge, like A+, CompTIA A+, CompTIA Network+, CompTIA Security+. Start there. They're foundational fundamental knowledge. And like, again, don't memorize for tests, actually learn the knowledge. When you go through, if you don't know something, circle back around on it and get it down now, because this is the foundation. If you want a good house, you have to start with a good foundation, right? And that's where this stuff comes in. I've seen and then again, there's so many certifications where you can go for boot camps and fast track it. Again, you can do that, but I see time and time again, like that fast track, you're not really absorbing the knowledge. You're just getting to the next thing. And when you're there in the trenches, so to say, day-to-day tasks, and something happens and you don't know, you're going to have a very bad day, very bad week, and possibly a very bad, I think what they call them is a resume generating event, right? And that's what we're getting at, is that, so what's happening now is like with the AI, and again, I'm not pro AI, I'm not anti AI, but I think it's something important to talk about, is now we can generate awesome resumes with artificial intelligence. So now when you're going out in the field and you're trying to apply to a job and you're trying to compete to get a job, right? You are up against all of these polished resumes that make everyone look like rock stars. Well, guess what? If you don't have those fundamental skills and you make yourself look like a rock star, it's going to come back to haunt you. And people are going to find out very, very quick that you're full of it. And I even see this now with like people like generating code, right? You're generating code, that's great. AI can do it for you and you can come up with a nice product. But when you go to scaffold that out, if you don't have that foundational knowledge that scaffolds itself up, right? you now generate code and then like you want to expand upon it, you're putting yourself into a very stressful situation, because you can't scaffold out correctly because you don't have that fundamental knowledge. Um, and then and again, like when I talked about like the Arduino, and the Raspberry Pi, and even like the certifications, again, they're good. Don't fast track yourself. But now we're getting to a point where we have everyone using artificial intelligence to really polish themselves up. Um, you look good, but are you actually good? And what I would say is like something like LinkedIn, showing what you actually know, talking about what you actually know and showing it, and putting that online, uh, to relay that skill set. So when you do have, let's say, like your LinkedIn, we'll say, for example, you can say, hey, check out my LinkedIn, and you can have articles there that you wrote. You can have videos, things of that nature, actually showing your skills and showing you actually doing it, because that is worth, amount. That's gold. When especially when you're starting to get in higher levels of expertise, there's so many people that basically, there was that analogy, fake it till you make it. I don't believe in that. I think that just comes back to haunt you. You Again, those fundamental skills you need, and now when we have this new turning point with artificial intelligence, how do you actually show your skills, when we have all this AI generated content? And not that I'm saying like AI has its place and it's good, but showing those fundamental skills, is going to make you stand out. You're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk, so to say. So, like I said, if I had to start over today, I would just keep it simple and start off, like I said, an old computer, Linux, Arduino, Raspberry Pi. That's it. And work on those skills. Build it slowly. Learn deeply. Don't rush it. You will thank yourself later, because I didn't get here today. It didn't take overnight. It took a lifetime of learning, and I'm still learning. And that's what getting into computer science, information technology, cybersecurity is about. Like, you have to basically sign on saying that you're going to be a lifelong learner and have that curiosity mindset, and that will always, prevail in the end. So, my final thought for you is, cybersecurity is not about knowing everything. If you run into somebody that says they know everything, that's a big red flag. It's a BS alert. And it's understanding how everything connects. That's what you'll get, further down the road. Is once you start, there'll be a certain point where things starting to click, and you'll see how everything starts to connect, and then you're in that mindset mode. But you got to start off with those fundamental knowledge. And when you start seeing the systems instead of the tools, everything changes. So I hope this helped you. I'll probably be doing some more on hands up setups as I go through here, for real beginner projects. I see a need for it. Hopefully you do too. And I'll drop any tools or links or kits that I mentioned, down below. And I hope they serve you well. And thanks for listening. And until we meet again.